Hello! Hello, people! Paradox here. Good to see you. Hope you like my new hairdo. Good to mix it up every once in a while. And I'd like to thank Rage Against the Machine, Zach De La Rocha, and all you crazy cats. That was that music we were hearing. And I think that in this day and age, this current time in history, that Rage Against the Machine has got some good mojo for us. Because really, the machine's broken, my friends. I don't know if it was ever working, but it certainly isn't working now. That's right, we've got so many political and economic institutions that are rooted in greed and violence. It's not working, people. And we need to tear down or transform it so fundamentally that it is not going to be recognizable to what it is right now. A system or systems rooted in compassion and peace and self-respect and unity consciousness. That's right, people. Let's move out of this whole dualistic paradigm and move into some unity consciousness where we can live in the kind of world that we want to live in, right? But what I'd like to talk about today is this whole piece of anger and rage and wrath. Because a lot of people have been feeling it these days, this anger, and justifiably so, because things are really messed up. I've been pissed off myself once or twice, or many times. But the question is, if we want to move, we got to get smart about this, people. We got to get smart. If we want to move towards a world that is rooted in peace and love and compassion and self-respect and respect for others, well, then we're going to have to do things a little bit differently. Because in the past, when we've gotten pissed off, what's happened? Violence. People get pissed, and they get violent, right? Now, what does that really do? Well, violence, if we engage in violence, then basically we turn the world into battlefield Earth. That's right. Wars and violence everywhere, right? It's just the perpetrator just takes advantage of the victim and violence, and then the scales get turned, and then the other group is the perpetrator, and then it's just a mess, right? So, but you know, when I talk to friends about this sort of issue, and I talk about, hey, maybe we can actually live in a world without this kind of violence. They're like, this is a pipe dream there, Paradox. You know, human beings are just violent by nature, you know? And I just don't buy that. I don't buy that. But then they say, well, you know, in the past, I mean, look at human history. There's always been violence with humans, right? And then, well, you know, so I said, well, I'm going to research this. So I started talking to some mathematicians, very intelligent human beings, and we were looking at equations and mathematics of this whole thing. And we came up with this one equation and kind of explain where things are really at. And here it is. This is right. The past does not equal the future. That's right, people. We can do things differently. And you know, it's not like some miracle has to occur to have that happen. I mean, all we really need is a little bit more wisdom. And that might seem far-fetched given our past, our history. But thankfully, we don't have to be geniuses to acquire a little bit of wisdom. You know, if you bang your head against the same wall again and again for generations, eventually, you can acquire a kernel of wisdom. And we can do that, my friends. And I think you may agree that we are ready for that. I mean, this is not working, this whole paradigm of duality and us versus them and good versus evil. And, you know, I mean, it's played out. I mean, what are we going to do? We need to destroy ourselves? No, absolutely not. So, the question is, what is an enlightened use of rage and wrath, these very natural emotions that we feel? Because every emotion's got its place, you know? Fear tells us about danger encroaching, and anger oftentimes will tell us about injustices that have been done, which explains why people are so pissed off right now, because there's a lot of injustice in this world, right? But the key is, how do we express this kind of rage in a way that leads us towards this enlightened unity consciousness sort of place that we actually want to live on, instead of perpetuating battlefield Earth? So, in asking this question, I have consulted some enlightened beings about this, you know, and the Buddhists are often a good place to look. So, because they really live, if they're walking the Dharma, then they live with compassion. And so, the Tibetan Buddhists are very interesting. They have a whole class of Buddhist deities, enlightened beings, that are called wrathful beings. Yes. And here's one right here. I'm going to show a picture of him. This guy, look at him. Whoa, man, that guy's serious business. So this is Yamantaka, and this guy is a wrathful being, and whoa, you would not want to mess with this guy. I mean, look at, he's got weapons, and he's like crushing beings under his feet, which seemed a little over the top there, buddy. But anyway, he's got flames around him, but this guy's not a demon. They say that he's an enlightened being. Now, how does that make sense? If this is if Buddhism is all rooted in compassion, how can wrathful beings be considered enlightened? Paradoxical, isn't it? Well, here's how it goes. So the thing is, in order for wrath to be an enlightened sort of virtue, it has to be channeled in a certain direction and in a certain way. Now, if it's rooted in violence, well, then that's no good. But if it's rooted in compassion, well, that's a whole other thing, my friends, and that's exactly what the Buddha said. I'm going to read you a little something from the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you. I love this man. I love him so much. So, the Dalai Lama says, with compassion as the causal motivation, the practitioner utilizes hatred or wrath for a specific purpose. This technique is based on the fact that when we become angry, a very energetic and powerful mind is generated. Yes. When trying to achieve a fierce activity for beneficial purposes, this energy and power can make a difference. So this is the thing, right? So how can this be enlightened? And the way it can be enlightened, this type of rage, is if you don't point it at other people, because that's violence. And that's just going to create more battlefield earth, my friends. More violence. You're either creating more violence or you're creating something different. So let's create something different, my friends. So how do we use that rage then? We point it at the ignorance, at the actions that are rooted in bigotry, that are rooted in anger, that are rooted in all of those things that we don't want to have, in violence, yes? And so if we point them at those things and not at the people, we can maintain some compassion towards those people who are committing these horrible acts. It's a little bit like our friend Donald Trump. You know, a lot of people like to give him a hard time, which is understandable because he's kind of a wreck. But we should not bring our violence towards him, but rather towards his actions. Yes? Because he is, whether you like it or not, a member of our family. You know? He's like that drunken uncle, you know? The one who comes over for Thanksgiving, and you're really just like, oh no, you're cringing. Like, what's he gonna say? You know, he's all drunk and he's saying these horrible, offensive things to people. He's like bigoted. He's like grabbing your niece's butt. I mean, just horrible, right? So, but this guy needs love. Our drunken Uncle Trump, he needs love. We've all got the shadow side, you know, and the light side. But if we demonize the shadow side and we only love the light side, well, then we become fractured beings and then we're rooted in duality again. And we're back to battlefield earth. So I encourage you, those people that you think are wrong or evil or doing the wrong thing, to take a step back and realize that we've all got the dark and the light within us, yes? And how can you hold a little bit of compassion for this person? Because everyone is your brother and sister. Whether you like it or not, we're all part of the same family. And I'm so glad that you're part of my family on this lovely planet Earth. Have a beautiful day.